Well, good morning, folks. Trying to get everything kind of configured here, and had a playback error here on the. And we're filming. You go to the website. You go to the website there, and I'm getting an error occurred on the playback. Well, let's see if this comes up. Yeah, that came up. I don't have a picture on my other thing. Well, as long as I can type over here and see the messages, that works too. I don't need to see a picture off to the side, so hopefully you guys are getting one. Of course, we'll only know that if you come and join. It's been a long time. It's been over a week since we've been able to do this, so let's put some of this stuff away and then we'll go ahead and get started. That's, I believe, last Wednesday. So it's been 8 days or so. Yeah. Crazy busy for me, so I haven't been able to do any painting until then. So we were exactly where we left off last time, which is these the remaining three Russians. We were working on this guy right here. And then we have the standard bearer and the overall commander to do. All right. Let's go ahead and get this thing situated. And okay. Make sure all this stuff is dried out. Oh yeah. So we can go ahead and give this a quick wipe. Last time I did this, all we had to do was just come in here and yep, and just do one of those. All right, which side are we going to use today? So I've done a lot of painting with this stuff, and I've used very little of the airbrush thinner. So all right. I think the last thing we did with this guy is we painted the horn and stuff and used these Agrax earth shade on it. So let's take a look at where that is right now. Maybe I did highlight it. It looks like I've highlighted it, honestly. Okay, we got stirrups to do, a saddle. Um, okay, pretty much just accoutrements there on him. All right, let's move this out of the way. And let's open this up that has not been opened in over a week and see what the moistness situation is on this. It's not bad. Could use a little bit more water, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, it's probably pretty good there. Yeah, we got lots of colors here that are still here, like this green and stuff. They're in really good shape. Yeah, the black's alive. Huh. Go figure, right? All right, so we need a saddle cloth on here. And taking a look at what else is on here. I don't have a problem doing a green one, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. There's a green that's here caught my eye, so that's what we're going to go with. I'm going to have to remix this thing because it got separated. Now, it's been sitting here a while. Okay, well, it might not be usable at all. Wow, it's really wet. Yeah, the problem is if it sits there a while, the water percolates into it and it becomes really wet. But I think we can work with this. I can always put some more down, but I'm lazy when it comes to that. There's so little of it showing on this particular miniature. Be right back. I gotta take care of something. Okay. False start. Okay. Let's get back to the green here. So just very little of this green showing. And we should be back to what I like to call a normal Saturday, which basically means I got about an hour and then I've got to go wake the child up. So, and then I'll come back for like 15 more minutes. Just a standard fare. Tomorrow will be the big painting thing. Hopefully I can get back in later today and do some more painting. I really want to get these guys done and move on. Not so much for getting this army done, but to start working on the next one. So it's only 2.5 figures over a weekend. It's certainly achievable. Obviously, when the other guys are drying and such, we're going to try to work on the next army as well. There's no point in postponing everything until all the basing and stuff is done. That's just silly. So we got to do prep and stuff on the other guys and do it. So we'll get to work on something new. So and no, it will not be a book one army. No surprise there. One of these days, we might work on a book one army and people's heads will explode. It'll be unbelievable. Yeah, I can do flags and shield patterns and all that stuff, and it's not my favorite thing to do. I've got no business hanging out in book one, you know? Nothing wrong with playing them. They're plenty fun. Just not my thing. A little bit more on the highlighting front here. Okay, got 2 likes. Thank you, but nobody here. It's almost like you asked me to make you a drink and you gave me a tip, but you didn't drink your drink. Don't be afraid, I don't bite. All right, we got that done out of the way. A little bit of green on him. Very little green. Got a little bit of saddle. Let me try to get away. A little bit of saddle showing. We need to do that. And a bow case too. And the scabbard. And also the arrow, the quiver thing. The quiver thing. Well, it's exactly what it's called. Oh, I haven't woken up yet. Okay. No, this is the color that the horse is. That's way too close. I could make that work, but we're gonna have to split off from that mix for quite a bit. Yeah, we could use red leather for the leather. It's not like I'm painting it straight. We're gonna stray away from this color a little bit. Yeah, I've been extremely busy this last week. I could have painted, but I don't really want to get on here for starting at 9 o'clock at night or for potentially 30 minutes. It's just not worth it. By the time people show up, it's time to leave. So, but on Monday, we should have a big battle game planned. So, the plan is you guys should see multiple people on there and a new type of game. CJ Hobbyfly, welcome. Let's see. We'll see what you got there. Can't stay long. Just wanted to say enjoy the Acadian games you posted earlier in the week. Yeah, Joe got that army done, and well, I knew he could make it. He hasn't been able to make it in several months. He coaches softball, I understand, on the side, so he's not available. He hasn't been available on Mondays. I'm not sure that he's been available any day after work. It's not what he does for a living. He just kind of does that on the side. I think, I'm not sure if his season is over with or he was just able to escape for that Monday. But yeah, that was nice. He got that army done, and we needed to showcase that. We're gonna do another showcase with another book one army of his when he comes back. He built the Acadians and the Third Dynasty of Ur. I believe they're both book 111. One is an A and one is a B. So we played two of the enemies of A when he comes back, and it's just a handful of us, like Mitch and myself. We'll play the enemies of his B list. So you'll get to see some more book one action. Try to mix it up a little bit. We have done some book one games. Mitch has, I don't know, 7 or 8 armies from book one. I'm just guessing. So we've done that. So it's good to mix it up for those of you guys that are into some of the earlier period stuff. And I'm into playing it. I just don't want to paint any of the armies for it. They're just, I'm more excited about stuff that's a little bit more colorful. I mean, I can make an early army colorful, but I like to walk that balance between what could be and what was. And the earlier you go, the harder it is to figure out what was, because the sources just don't exist, So, anywho, some people call that a biblical period. I would say that what we did is pre-biblical. Maybe Gilgamesh period would be probably more accurate. But I'm not really interested in the history of that. There just isn't enough references, so you're wondering, it's bad enough when you're reading something modern that only comes from one viewpoint. You're wondering if you're really getting the whole story. But when you go back that far, I mean, it's to the extreme. So, yeah, I look forward to it as well. Those early lists are fun to play. I like with playing with Auxilia and sometimes crappy troops. Although I would argue that the 3 armies that we played the other day, none of them were crappy armies. They would do fine in an open setting, and pretty much any environment. So, yeah, something a little different. But yeah, the earlier you go, the less you're going to have source material, and of course, you're never going to have enough material there for like ideas for painting stuff other than linen with some stripes maybe or something like that. Unbleached linen or bleached linen. I'm not sure when the bleach started, but anyways, off-white type colors for the most part. But yeah, there'll be some more of that coming. And it used to be that they didn't make very many miniatures for those armies, but I think that's kind of changed a little bit. Joe's army was the new Z line by Museum, which there's always been Sumerian figures. I think just about everybody has made them at one point or another between Essex and Chariot. And I think Museum made them before Falcon. Not that you can get Falcon, but they still made them. But you know, Book One armies traditionally, they would make figures for what, Sumerians, Assyrians, Hittites, Egyptians, of course. Just everybody has Egyptians, including Peter Pig. Who else? Not the early Greeks, Persians, Trojans, and like early Indians, and that's it. So all the other army lists you got to make like with a combination. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody. The Hebrews and Philistines, sea people. Other than that, there's a lot of armies that you've got to make from other stuff. So, like they make, Canaanites and Amorites. They make those guys as well. But there's a lot of things left. Now you can just kind of cludge them together from other things, but you're essentially you're inventing too many things, in my opinion. You're inventing what the people look like. You're inventing how to paint them. It's a little too much for me. Not that I can't do that, but I really don't want to do that on a bunch of armies. So, all right, you too, man. Have a happy Saturday. All right, let's get some of this dark sea blue and see what happens when we put this on here. It's going to do this bow case in this. Make it something a little bit different, but not too outlandish. I know it seems like the bow cases some of these guys had were adorned in unusual ways. So, yeah, I always like when people come by, mix it up a little bit. I can say that, not to try to dare you guys, but I can say in all the videos that I've done, including the live ones, maybe two people have come in that have been at issues. So you guys know how to behave. And I think both of them were spam folks that, who knows what they really were. People want to come in for arguments or get into confrontations. There's much better places to go here than here. I'm just kind of happy-go-lucky. Well, I am while I'm painting. Let's put it that way. This is a no worries zone here. Okay, it doesn't look like much right now, but we'll see if we can bring this up some. We could probably go full core on this. This color isn't very bright, so we can go all the way up to here. And we'll start adding some white, which Well, it's half dead here anyways, isn't it? Yeah. Let's put a new one out there. White always seems to be the one that dries the fastest, for whatever reason. It's perception or some chemical reaction. It might be because tend to put a smaller amount of white than the other colors, because you don't need a whole lot. I mean, white and black are extremely strong. You put just a little bit of either one, and it really modifies the color quite a bit. See, this color is going to turn a little gray a little bit, which is okay. You know, all this stuff's going to fade big time. All right, let's add a little bit more. Yeah, we'll pretty much play anything. Now, when it comes down to armies I'm going to paint, that's a big commitment. I'm only going to do at the most 3 armies a year. So, I don't know how many more armies I got left in me, but, I can't just go on a whim and do things I'm not particularly interested in. So it's not like I'm going to go out and let me do some Vikings. Vikings are a lot of the same troop type, and just about everybody has them. You guys don't need me to do them. So, I already have Marion Romans. So I don't need Vikings. I know Luke has Vikings. Mitch may end up having them as well, but you can tell how often we've used them in battle. We haven't. So, okay. I don't know if that comes out, but here it is. Now, some kind of design there. We're probably going to go ahead and do that in bronze just to make it pop a little bit. There it is. Oh, wow, we got a huge pile of it over here. Is any of this alive? Yes! Why is it so big? What happened? I think it wasn't that big and the water got in there and just really expanded it. I can't imagine just putting that much down. That had to be what it was. Some colors you try to put a little bit down and you get a boatload that comes out. But this this bronze color isn't that way. It tends to kind of keep to itself. It doesn't behave that way. I've had that color forever. I don't use much of it. All right, just a little something on there. And the water's really low in there. How much of it evaporated? It's only this much in it. All right, let's get the this color here. Yeah, I don't want to get on here and play and only film for like half hour because it takes about a half hour for people to start coming in, the right people to show up, or not necessarily the right people, but interaction with folks. And I don't want to be like, okay, well, thanks for just appearing. I got to leave now. That's not the intent. So, It happens. You guys have other things going on. Sometimes when I come on, I understand it's not the most ideal time to maybe do the hobby, but it's when I can get away. So we'll be back on tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. Eastern, and hopefully go for about 3 hours or so. I'm hoping I can get these guys done. I'm tired of looking at them. I don't necessarily want to play them. That doesn't mean I don't want to play them. It just that's not what the big catalyst to get these guys done is. I want to start dreaming about the next army, working on the next army, cleaning them up, picking figures for them, all that fun stuff that I enjoy doing. So, and it's going to be a weird one. Those guys that don't know, we're going to start working on Papal Italian next. So, we get to do our litter with a Pope on there. Ought to be a hoot to play. We'll get to make fun of him. You guys know we make fun of everything, so. Get to see how a litter does in combat. Well, that's assuming somebody goes into combat with a litter. It's kind of a weird, odd element there. All right, where is the? Here we go. The next army will consist of a lot of what I like to call second tier figures. So figures that are not some of the best. I think they'll have a couple of Merlaton guys in there, but for the most part, they're going to be old school tabletop games and things of that nature that have been around a really long time that nobody really gives them a second look. I just have a ton of their figures. I happen to like how they look, and they kind of deserve their time in the sun, so to speak. So, and a couple things they paint up fast, and I have a lot of them that I've acquired or people have sent me, or a combination of both. And it's time to use them up. Just about everything will paint up well if you give them a little bit of respect and a little TLC. They'll turn out just fine. So. All right. Almost out of coffee. It's leftover coffee from yesterday. So we might have to get us some liquid here. All right, we got some stirrups to do, but we also have. I'm trying to figure out if I've done his boots. I can't tell if I've done them. If I haven't, If I have, I need to do a little bit more to them. So I think I attempted to do them in brown and just didn't highlight them enough to my liking. So let's just go ahead and do that now. Yeah, we got a big battle scheduled for Monday. If that doesn't happen, we'll do something else. But Marty's supposed to come and run some stuff for War of the Roses. We'll see if that happens. And it just so happens that I'm reading a War of the Roses book right now, which I'm actually fascinated at how little I knew about it. I mean, I really didn't know anything about it. And yeah, really enjoying that. So now I get to play it too. I don't know exactly what he has planned, but I think it's a series of battles or something like that, but multiple people on a side. So I know those of you in the UK have pretty strong views about the War of the Roses, just like the Norman invasion. I believe you guys do. Lots of people talk about it. I didn't. I really didn't know anything about it. I don't know anything about Henry VI or Edward IV, and I am maybe 80% of the way through the book on the War of the Roses by Dan Jones and on Audible, and really enjoying it. Really enjoying learning about stuff I had no idea about. So, gaming, like I've said before, gaming is learning for me. So I enjoy it to be an opportunity to learn about history and then being able to play it or partake in it, as I like to say. Kind of weird in the DBA list, the War of the Roses list and the Tudor English are all lumped into one. So I think I've got troops to do a Tudor English because of my Renaissance troops that I have. I think the Tudor English list goes through like 1515 or something like that. But I guess that would be early Tudor English. But the War of the Roses list is the same for both factions. So Lancastrians or Yorkists, they're both the same army list. So that's doesn't really incentivize you to build two armies to fight each other if they're both the same. It just kind of takes the personality of it. I'm not really sure why they decided to do that, but like the core is the same. I think they've got a couple of units of 4 units of blade, 4 units of longbowmen, solid longbowmen, and artillery. The general that can either be a foot blade or a mounted knight, and then a couple of elements that can be either this or that. But that's pretty much the same core of both armies. So it's kind of like Hundred Years' War English with more blade or less bow. My Burgundians are very similar, so I'm actually going to be using my Burgundian figures in the game on Monday night. So looking forward to that. All right, let's get us some liquid. I will be right back. All right, what we got left on this guy? We've got reins to put on here. We got stirrups. Let's go ahead and do the stirrups. We know what color we're going to do on that. We've been pretty consistent in doing that in a light color. So let's be consistent with the consistencies. But yeah, definitely, like I said, I've definitely been enjoying learning about War of the Roses and surprised how little I knew. Not really a period of interest for me. But yeah, the problem with that period is it's modern enough that there's paintings for all of those major figures, or many of those major figures, but they all kind of look the same. And, even though they're all moderately related to each other, it kind of makes sense they would have some similarities, but they're all kind of done in the same type of dress as each other. And it just, I don't know, it just seems a little flat. But we will see. Not sure which one book I'm going to do next because, like I said, I'm like 80% done with it and really zipping through this one. I specifically wanted to get a Dan Jones book on this next one because I've read several. I just finished the one on the Crusades, and I'm like, well, let's do War of the Roses because I'd already done the Plantagenet one. So we will see. There's one on the Templars he also does that I haven't read yet, but it might be too focused on, not focused enough about battle. See, the whole purpose in reading something like that is now I can go in after I've done something and I kind of have the cornerstones of the timeline down, and then go in there and read more about the battles and stuff like that. That's the problem with the War of the Roses. It was just so complicated. I didn't want to really delve into it. I recognize the name of all the battles when it's like, oh, that's the battle of this and the battle of that, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's the order that they go in, and oh, this happened in this one, and okay, cool, I get it now. But without that common understanding, you know, of what order they went in and so forth, then it's kind of hard to wrap your head around it. Because remember, I'm wanting to know this stuff for knowing really knowledge for knowledge purposes, so I could wrap my head around all this stuff. So I think getting through this book was very useful because it wasn't his writing style is not complicated at all, and yeah. Anywho, very interesting. But a lot of the portraits of that time period, they almost are all wearing the same garments, and they all look very the same. And the paintings that happen from 1300s to until you start getting into people like into the 1500s, like Titian and people like that. Um, Titian and Rubens and Velasquez and stuff like that. All the portraits of all those major characters, and like the Renaissance portraits that they did in Italy, were the thing that was prominent was kind of a side view of the person. It wasn't three-dimensional or head-on. It was like a profile view of the person. Everybody looks the same, and part of it is that a lot of these people were related, and a lot of it is just the style that they're done in is very similar. So, but anyhow, I'm enjoying learning about that kind of stuff. So, and yeah, I didn't realize there was mini series about all that stuff either. So, we may have to get into that. But as always, you want to know about the history before you don't want to learn your history from TV programming because no matter how good no matter how good the program is, they'll always botch it up or try to push an agenda or something. You know, it's better to not learn your everything you know about that from a program. Okay, I think we're done with the stirrups there. We need to do the reins now. I'm fine probably doing the same thing. Mr. Dirk, welcome, welcome. But unfortunately, you know, the army list for War of the Roses are both the same, so it's not very conducive for me to say, oh, let me build a Lancastrian and a Yorkist force. Like it's like building two of the same thing. It's kind of like pointless. So you could tweak them a little bit, but the 70% of the army is going to be exactly the same. So we'll see. I've played a War of the Roses battle before in Big Battle DBA, and it was fun. It's definitely a composition that I like. I'm a fan of four blade, four bow, four longbow, but we'll see. And then it was kind of cool reading all the way through it, and then I think I took a look at the flags on like Thursday or something like that, just to kind of see how people's heraldry look differently. And it's, you know, I get into all that stuff. So Greek cavalry, excellent. I got to get back to working on my Greeks at some point. I don't know when the hell that's going to be. You know, I was working on them before I met Mitch, and then Mitch shows up with all these Greek armies. And I'm like, well, I guess I don't need to do Greeks. I mean, there's no point in me doing something that he already has. You know, unless it was something that I absolutely had to have. It's silly to do that when I could be doing something that neither one of us have. So that's what happened with the Greeks. Nothing wrong with them. I enjoy those Greek armies quite a bit, and I tend to do well with them. I'm a big fan of Spear, but he's already got them. He's already got them all. So bronze armor, cool. I like that stuff. Bronze cuirass, and I don't know if the cavalry had what do you call those things? Greaves. I don't know if Greek cavalry had greaves, but they certainly had, well, sometimes helmets, cuirass. Yeah, gotta love me some Corinthian helmets, man. That's one of the coolest helmets ever of all time. Always liked them. Okay, I need to fix a boogered up thing. Old Glory loves to do this. And see, and I guess I was distracted when I did it. I didn't think it forward. The the strap that goes, the slight blue one that I was painting on the front of the horse, it doesn't go all the way to underneath the saddle. Like it just kind of disappears there. It's a floating one. So we're gonna go ahead and add that on there. Yeah, it's not a big deal. I can retro do anything, but it's just kind of a waste of time. Do we have any? Oh my gosh, this is still alive. Wow, that's amazing. go. Just a little sidetrack. Yeah, it's funny. We did that Q&A thing the other day, or several months ago, or a month ago, or something like that. And Joel, one of the questions was, "Who's your favorite general?" And Joel mentioned that he didn't have a favorite general. And I just, myself and a lot of people just really found that odd. And it's not necessarily that you need to worship a person, because I don't really think anybody's really worthy of doing that. But there's just some people that are more interesting than others, you know. And you're going to encounter people, just like if you hear a story, you're going to encounter certain characters that you want to read more about because they're particularly interesting. Um, I don't know. It's always been the case for me, no matter what it is. You'll hear a story and you'll end up taking sides. I mean, and I've said this before, all these folks in history were horrible people by today's standards. They would do things that I would never do, you know. And, but that doesn't mean it's not interesting to read about them or that you like one more than the other, or, you know. Anyhow, I just thought it was really strange. I found myself doing that all the time, going through, you know, when I'm reading something about, well, the book on the Crusades is excellent because it's just a little bit of vignettes from both sides, or really you could say all three sides, because the Byzantines are in there as well. Different characters that they kind of highlight, some that you've known about, some that you don't. And yeah, I certainly have my favorites. In any period, it just makes sense that you would do that. Like if you were going to play a campaign game, you know, who you'd want to play. It doesn't necessarily mean who you think's the, you just people that are more interesting than others. I think that's just human nature normally, you know. So, and some people that you have more of a affinity for reading about. Anyhow, I do that. So, all right. Now this guy's got some kind of a flag underneath his horn. We may have to postpone that until we know what the main general is going to look like, so that we can use that flag to tie into him, because they are going to be on the same stand. So I can already see myself saying, okay, that's probably the last thing I'm going to paint, is that. In other words, I'm going to do the standard bearer next, then the general, then we'll go back and do the flag on him, so they could tie into his colors or something like that. All right, we've got this thing that the quiver goes in, and it looks like it's made out of some fur or something like that. It's got some kind of a texture to it. See how it is down here? I don't know if that comes out okay. Looks like fur or something like that. So, so with that said, let's see if I can start working with this. It's not going to end up being this color, but using this as a base. So yeah, I think it's pretty common that people have their favorites of people that they like reading about, and just some things are I think naturally, especially as war gamers, more endearing or more interesting than others. And as an example, I'll use the War of the Roses book because that's what I've been reading most recently. Is I don't think I'm ever going to encounter someone who says finds Henry VI really interesting because as war gamers, we don't want we're interested in people that inspire people in battle and things like that. We're not interested in some guy who just wants to read books and is holy and doesn't really do anything and gets manipulated. It's just not that very exciting of a character. Let's face it. I mean, I'm sure there'll be somebody that'll say, "Oh well, that's who interests me. I'm interested in pious individuals." But as war gamers, we want people who people like Alexander the Great, was he a nice guy? No, but he took a lot of territory. That's what we're interested in, now. So that's as war gamers, we tend to gravitate towards those individuals that inspire, you know, by for whatever reason. So yeah, I don't know how you can't have any favorite generals. Oh well, we'll have to work on Joel. Maybe he has some. Maybe he has favorite and his least favorite generals. Maybe he has a list of that. I don't know. It just seems weird because there's always something that's more interested in that. Just like even when you're talking about machines. Like I'm basically a World War II gamer, or used to be, anyways. So what's your favorite machine of this or whatever? You know, so you could take ideology out of it and just how a vehicle looks or airplane or favorite tank or everybody's going to have favorites. You know. For you, it's Belisarius. Boy, that guy got screwed. That poor guy. Now, I've only read a couple things, and not necessarily about him specifically, but just in passing. But yeah, there's actually a book on my watch list about Belisarius, and I've got the Ostrogoths, so might be a good tie in there. And I've got the figures to do his army, but I just don't see Justinian and the Empress and Belisarius's wife as very likable individuals. I'm just not going to take their side. The guy got screwed, you know. Yeah, because he wasn't. He had like zero inch. Like one of the things that I do not care for in individuals is people that are not loyal. I can't relate to that unless the person that's in charge is totally evil, and they are being in they're taking power away from them because the person is just downright evil. But when I read about it, some guy who's just kind of like power hungry and he like backstabs somebody for no reason because he wants more power, that automatically in my book gets put as a bad guy. You know what I mean? Not necessarily a bad guy, but somebody who like I can't relate to that. I can't relate to a person with those traits. So Belisarius did none of that stuff. He was totally loyal, and I've only read a couple things on him, so maybe I'm overgeneralizing. But as far as I understand it, he was a good guy, and he just got freaking. He had no interest in taking over the throne or everything, and he just got treated like crap. And yeah, He got screwed because he was so loyal, and that should never happen. I That's just should never happen to you. You know. So yeah, screw Justinian, bastard. I guess that makes me on the side of the greens, right? Because the blues back Justinian. Yeah, I'll need to read more about him if it's. And the other guy that fought the Ostrogoths was Narses, right? And Narses was a eunuch, which is always interesting. That have a unit commander. That guy's got no balls. If he's got no balls, why is he charging? Well, all the jokes that go along with that. But yeah, you shouldn't be. If you're loyal, you shouldn't be screwed. At least you shouldn't be screwed by the guy you're loyal to, right? I mean, you could like back the wrong guy and oops, But yeah, see, that's a good quality. Yeah, I don't care for characters that are extreme power hungry. You know, that you know they rebel for no reason. Just because they want more power. I find it hard to relate to those people. So Belisarius is a lot of people have an affinity for him. Maybe that bodes well for the human race. I don't know. I need to read more about him. I need to read more about him. Because, like I said, I got the Ostrogoths. So that'd be a. Maybe I should do that army next. No, those. It's too tempting with those guys that just came out now. What are they called? Forged in Battle. Those figures are just gorgeous. It'd be too tempting to start painting their figures. So. But and there's just too much mounted. There's only like 4 units of foot in that army, like 2 blades and 2 Soloi, and the rest of it is all mounted. That's a bit much, which it's okay. I mean, but those guys lose terrain. They're up a creek. So unless they're fighting somebody like, well, the Vandals who are all mounted. Okay, I think that's what we're gonna go with this. So we kind of did like a kind of a subtle colored thing. We're gonna go ahead and do the back of the arrows. We're gonna do them in traditional white. That's what we like to do. And but yeah, it's not one of those endearing qualities in individuals is if you've got somebody who's a good military commander and or they're loyal or whatever, or their troops are loyal to them. Those guys are interesting to read about. But some guy who was just being a prick, yeah, it's hard to get into somebody like that, unless you're a prick yourself, and then in which case maybe you can relate to that. getting close. In 5 minutes, I got to go wake the daughter, and I'll be right back for the last 15. Today is the short painting session day. Tomorrow promises to be longer. But it looks like I was able to get this guy done, so then we'll just have 2 guys done left to do. Yeah, but different people have different things that they, can agree with, side with. Like lots of people, I'm actually really surprised, but lots of people have an affinity for the Mongols, and I just do not. I don't, I just can't take their side. I can't take the side of people that just destroy shit. It's okay to conquer people, but destroy other people's relics so that they're forgotten. I just no, it's just not really my thing. So um, yeah, lots of people are like pro-Mongol, and not saying the other guys were good guys, but I don't like the Mongols. Mongols are definitely bad guys in my book. Sorry, Mongol lovers. It doesn't mean I won't build a Mongol army, but I've already talked about why I'm not doing a Mongol army. It's a slippery slope of things I can get myself into in trouble. So it's better I don't touch them for the time being. But want to tinker with the rules, and that's I don't know why I even put that color down. See what the Mongols made me do it, bastards. Um, we need a leather type color, so let's come in here and do that. Yeah, lots of people like the Mongols. Carthaginians. I don't like Carthaginians. I can't stand the fact that they sacrifice their own children. I just can't relate to that. Even the worst people in history, even some really bad people 70 years ago didn't sacrifice their own children. I just no. You sacrifice. I mean, you want to sacrifice children. You sacrifice your other guy's children, not your own. It's just does not compute. So I don't have an affinity for the Carthaginians, regardless of how much of a badass Hannibal was, which he was. There's no doubt about that. But doesn't mean I won't play them. Doesn't mean I won't build one of their armies at some point. But yes, everybody's got one of their armies, but be more of a challenge to how to win with them, because that's a very challenging army. Definitely the army I dissuade people from buying first. Oh, I'm just getting into DV8. Let me get Carthaginians. Like, don't do that. That's a bad move. You're not going to do really well with them, and then you'll be frustrated because you think that they should win all the time because it's Hannibal, not the army. So he was a genius. So okay. All right, we got the horsehair to do. Let's go ahead and start with that in black. Let's go ahead and cover that in black, and then we'll go wake the daughter. She's got to go do swimming this morning. And I want to make sure she doesn't oversleep for that. So the moral of the story is, yeah, I do pick sides. I'll play anybody, but I pick sides, definitely. You know, if I'm playing Greeks like dirt, I've got my preferences of who I want to play. But I'll play the Persians. Okay, I will be right back. So I'm sure some of you might have an affinity for a particular commander that's kind of odd. Belisarius deserves his own movie. He does not, because he'll just ruin it. You love the Poison King. So excellent. Good. We got a reader among us. That's good. Um, so if you're ready to take notes, let me know. I got some other ones. It's true, they would ruin it. Um, it would, you know, if they made a movie about Belisarius, it would only be fitting that it would be done by the Belisario uh, people, the film people. I mean, that would be right. I mean, who else would do it? I mean, it would be, Harvey. Good morning. You're ready for the things. Well, nothing is. I'm going to tell you right now. I've probably done maybe 50 books on Audible. I'm just going to round up to the nearest 50. It might be like 40 or something like that. The best one, easily, without a doubt, was Ghost of Canai. The story and the narrator, it's not going to get better than that. The the three books I've read by Dan Jones, well, I'm going to count the War of the Roses one as complete because I'm like 85% complete through it. But the Plantagenet is good, but I can't recommend it because the narrator sucks. You've listened to it twice. Yeah, Belisario. Yep. I mean, he has the right name, right? Um, yeah, he's been around for a while. I don't know if he's still alive but I was just saying that I think he did. No, I'm getting the Laurentis guy mixed up. I was thinking, didn't he do Conan? But I don't really follow directors and stuff like that, so I just remember that. Uh, what was the name? So I can't recommend the Plantagenet book because the story's great, but the narrator sucks. He's just not into it. He doesn't want to be there, and I agree with him. I don't want him to be there. Um, but the book that Dan Jones' book on the Crusades is really good. That he narrates himself, and he's a good narrator. That guy can pronounce everything correctly, in my opinion. And the War of the Roses one's really good. And I don't know which one I'm going to do next, but I'm really enjoying the War of the Roses one because I didn't realize I didn't know jack shit about this, which is, I guess, probably a good thing because I do them from the I do them from a standpoint of wanting to learn about stuff, and then wargaming, and then partake in the period. But yeah, I do have a book on Belisarius, but I don't know. I think it's kind of old, and It might not be very in depth. Rise and fall of the Third Reich. I don't care about the politics stuff. Shire was a slog. Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm kind of over World War II stuff. I'm really enjoying this War of the Roses book because I don't know anything about it other than the very generalization obvious. So, it's a good story and it's something I don't know a whole lot about. So that's a plus plus. I've got one on my watch list on about the Normans, and hopefully it goes into a lot of detail of the Italian Normans. But I don't know where it is. So, where am I getting these audiobooks from? Audible. I have a $15 subscription or whatever, and you get a free book. It's a free book, yeah. Well, you pay for it, but I've got like 9 credits, so I've got to use them up faster than I am, or discontinue it for a while. But if you do that, you've got to select the books and you get to keep them. But don't discontinue the membership service while you still have credits, or you lose them, or something like that. So, and to, I don't want to commit to choosing something until I'm ready to listen to it, because just like an army, my what I'm interested in may change in the next month or so, and then I'll be like, oh, I really don't want to read that book about Kursk or something. Wish it would have been on the Crusades or something instead. So, but yeah, nothing's as good as the Ghost of Canai. It's really you want a static army now. So tell me if it didn't seem to you that when you read The Poison King, that narrator was pretty good, by the way. It 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 halfway through the book, it rehashed parts of it that you've already read before about like the science behind the different leaves and chemicals and stuff like that. It just seemed like part of it was almost like a rehash. Like it went kind of through a story to where it got interesting. And then at some point, like halfway through the middle, it kind of went back to like the first third of the book and then finished it out. But yeah, I'd planned on building a Mithridatic army, and then frickin' Mitch goes and buys one. Sons of a bitch, son of a bitch, So son of a Mitch, and but yeah, yeah. There's quite a bit of descriptions about what that figure might have actually looked like if you're going to paint him. He was a good narrator, but he pronounced. Oh, oh, hold on a second here. Adobogiona, adobogiona as atravagina. Okay, well, look, because you understand those Greek words, right? So there's a book that I read that the story is excellent, and it's called. I'll probably get it wrong because it has a very generic name. I believe it's called Conquistador. It's by a guy named Buddy Levy. The narrator is okay. He is a typical American that can't pronounce stuff right. And he mispronounces everything in Spanish and the native stuff as well. So, but he doesn't totally ruin the book. But there's something they should make a movie about, but they would totally ruin it, and it would also make the natives seem very peace loving and, kumbaya-ish. So they don't need to make a movie about that. It's better that they don't make more movies, okay? We just need to understand that they'll get the period armor wrong. They'll have an agenda instead of, we just want them to tell the story, okay? We don't need an agenda. Just tell us the story because it's freaking fascinating. And yeah, the worst historians of all are movie directors and producers, etc. Especially in this woke age. I don't want no historical movies in this woke period. Yeah, I believe it's the Conquistador. And there's stuff there that I didn't know about the whole fleet that the Spanish built to go on the lake, and just crazy stuff that's like, man, this is unbelievable. This is almost like fantasy. Have you heard any Graham Hancock's lectures about Cortez? He's really out there, but has some interesting thoughts. Huh. No, is he on Audible? That guy was lucky as shit. Talk about people that are lucky, man. Cortez was just, he was lucky as crap. And there's some people that are just like, I mean, I think Alexander was super lucky too. I mean, he just, think, not necessarily lucky, but things just kind of fell into place for them. Let's put it that way. Um, yeah, I mean, there's some people like that. And then there's some people that just, things just don't work out for them. They're at the wrong place at the wrong time. But Cortez is probably the luckiest person I can think of. Well, right now it comes to mind. I mean, just everything just fell into place for him, and it almost didn't when they sent the other guy after him, and he had to turn around and go after his own folks and deal with that, and then have to turn back around. So that's interesting. But yeah, everything else just, I mean, really fell into place for him. I mean, even that fell into place for him. Imagine we gotten defeated there. I mean, there's just so many things that the whole butterfly effect. If it hadn't been for one thing, something else wouldn't have worked out. You know. Um, yeah, I guess there's probably a lot more of that in history that you really give it credit for, but definitely the law of unintended consequences, so forth. You know, and there's lots of things. I mean, certainly in the history of the Byzantine Empire, there's lots of times where they, man, they were back up against the wall and they came back. I mean, they got besieged in the early 700s when Constantinople got besieged. I mean, they were like, that's all that was left is they were pushed back into a corner and they came back from that. So, I mean, you just, there's things that just happen a certain way and they just, you know, like if you're playing a percentile game, what was the odds of that happening? Well, 1 in 1 it happened, right? Might be. I wouldn't exactly recommend his books. If you find his podcast lectures interesting, you might read his books. I don't have time to read books. I just don't. When I read a book, I can only read a book. I can't drive or anything like that. So Napoleon says, "Don't give me a good general, give me a lucky general." Yeah. See, I don't really know anything about Napoleon, and, and what I mean by that is in detail. You know, I mean, obviously, I know who he is. I know when he died. I know what brought it about. Whatever. But you know, just in detail stuff. Just like when I was reading The War of the Roses, I mean, I know who started it. I mean, I knew who Richard III was, and I know who ended up coming out on top, but I didn't know anything about Edward IV. And I think Edward IV is a really interesting character. Like, I want to read more about him, you know? And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting when you don't know anything about it. You come like, oh, this guy's, how do I not know anything about this person, you know? Anyhow, cool stuff. If I owned the book where you listen to the audio, um, Byzantines are my people. Talk about tenacity. Talk about sabotage, self sabotage. Yeah, a lot of backstabbing. Backstabbing's hard to. I mean, like I said, unless the guy is like needs to be brought down, I just don't see any reason to backstab somebody. It's just not in my personality. I'm not that way. I'm all for being vengeful. Don't get me wrong. Paying people back. Oh yeah, that's my favorite kind of movies, payback movies, but not for no reason. That just doesn't make any sense. So, one of the books I read relatively recently is a memoir from the Eastern Front called Blood Red Snow. And I brought this up on one of my filmings. I actually owned the book. I owned the book for like 20 years, probably from Military Book Club when I had it back in the early 2000s, really early 2000s, and never listened to it, and did it on Audible. And I just wanted to hear a small scale memoir. A book kind of sucks. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, it didn't. I didn't find it endearing at all. I didn't care what happened to this guy and his comrades at all. But I happened to have the book after I finished the book on audio. I thought that was interesting. I guess I could sell the book, right? There's a couple things that happened that were moderately interesting. There's a situation there on the Eastern Front. A lot of the book focuses on late 43, early 44, when they're at the on the bridgehead on the, I'm going to say the Dnieper. I could be wrong. But there's a couple incidents where some flamethrower tanks came in, some German flamethrower tanks and did some stuff. So I'm like, okay, what unit were those guys part of? Maybe or that kind of stuff. The war gamer in me came out, but other than that, I thought the book was kind of sorry. So yes, they are great for driving. There's no doubt. Let me make sure the lights are on and somebody's home. Yeah, I got a couple of my. I think I should be able to access it from my computer. I got a couple of things on my. It's weird because I am the world's worst about remembering passwords. So I usually, yeah, see, I'm not signed in here. I've got to do it from my phone, and I'm filming on my phone, so I can't really do that. I'm the world's worst about remembering passwords, so I got to use something that another computer I use remembers the password for this, and it's also on my phone, but so I can't access it right now. But I got a book on the Normans that's on there that looks interesting. Um, and let's see if I can find it just by doing a search. Yeah, the Normans from Raiders to Kings, and I gravitate towards books that tend to be unabridged and tend to be really long because like I think there was one I did on the Byzantine Empire, and it was like 6 hours long, and it was like, give me more. I need more info than that. So I hated that book because it just didn't go in deep enough. Yeah, this Norman book, Raiders to Kings, from Lars Brownsworth. I've recognized his name, but it's only 7 hours long. I'm like, that's not very long. I mean, I'm used to like 28-hour long, 32-hour long books, and I'm not particularly sorry for you folks in the UK. I'm not particularly interested in the Normans in the UK. I'm interested in them in Italy. As a matter of fact, for those of you guys that play Field of Glory Medieval, just yesterday they released what they call it the Reconquista thing, the expansion that goes into Spain and Italy. Well, that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in that stuff. So I'm, you know, I'm not English, so I don't have an affinity for the history necessarily there. So it's been done. I've seen it done so many times, and I'm like, okay, everybody does that, you know. But yeah, I definitely gravitate towards the books that are longer, and I don't know if I'm going to do the Templar book. It just seems like it's just a little too focused, and it's going to be on, I don't want to read a book that's all about religious stuff. It's not that interesting. I want a little bit more combat oriented or something to inspire me to do DB8 style battles. But anywho, I mean, I can't do everything, so I might as well be picky about what it is that I do. That I do. But the next area that we're going to be working on after these Russians is going to be the Pope and the Hohenstaufen guys, Frederick II, and that kind of stuff. So that's at least what the plan is. We'll see if that pans out. So Papal Italian, Communal Italian, Sicilian. That's probably what I'm going to do. I've got all the figures to do all that kind of stuff, and they're not overly done. Actually, I don't think I've seen anybody do a papal army. I'm sure there's someone out there. Somebody's done one. Just in my circles, nobody has done one. There we go. So, but anyhow, I think we're going to wrap this up. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be back on. I'll be on tomorrow morning for sure. Same bat time. So we can get some painting done. Got two guys left. This guy's mostly done. We got to do some tinkering on the horsehair and the hooves and that kind of stuff. But then we've got the standard bearer. We already have his flag. Where is his flag? Here it is. You already got his flag up. And I can tell you right now that the banner thing is probably going to be some kind of a wet blue. So it ties into some of the coloration here. So this, the staff that this flag on is going to be light bluish or something like that. And we'll paint him up. And of course, the big man himself, whoever the hell he is. I'm not necessarily going to make him as Nevsky. Again, overdone. There were other princes, and then that way we can play him. We don't know what kind of a prince he's going to be. the the prince formerly known as Nevsky, right? Anyhow, we'll catch you guys tomorrow morning. Enjoy your Saturday, and see you next time. Happy painting. Bye bye.